Hello YouTube, this is the Bucket coming at you today with a first impressions video on the CZ-P01, and what made me think about it is this particular firearm, the PSA Dagger, which is a direct copy of the Glock 19 Gen 3, and this is your classic, ubiquitous, polymer framed, inexpensive firearm. And it serves a purpose and it does a great job, and that's great. But for some of us that maybe want a little bit more out of a firearm, these just don't get the job done. You know, they feel cheap. They're plastic. The ergonomics aren't number one, and they just do what they do. So for some of you, this is the perfect idea of a firearm, and that's great. But one of my favorite firearms of all time is the CZ-75, and to be more specific, the P01. Now, this particular firearm is a conceal and carry firearm, which I am just absolutely in love with. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of CZ, of the P01 specifically. And being a history guy, this is just a really, really cool story. So after World War II, Czechoslovakia was behind the Iron Curtain and was part of the Warsaw Pact. And ostensibly all military decisions were made by the Soviets in Russia. And military firearms all had to meet certain requirements. And part of that was the caliber of pistol, the calibers of rifles. And, you know, with a lot of those, the Soviets would actually just give whole packages and bring a factory in and have them produce the same firearms. So that's why you see a lot of those Soviet con bloc countries with the Tokarev or the Makarov, the 7.62 by 25 or the 9 by 18 Makarov round. And so there weren't a lot of freedom to do different things. And one of the manufacturers in Czechoslovakia was CZ. Now, I'm going to let you guys know, I don't speak Czech and I don't speak Slovakian. I don't speak Russian. And if I tried, I would just butcher it up really bad. So if I don't go over specific names with you, please don't take that the wrong way. But two of the best designers that they had were the Kautsky brothers, Josef and Franciszek, and from here on out, I'm going to refer to them as Joe and Frank. Again, please don't take that as an insult. I apologize. I'm just not particularly good at Czechoslovakian. So they designed things together and just signed with their surname. And so knowing who did what was kind of hard to do. And Frank decided he was going to retire. And the powers that be at CZ said, hey, Frank, we still think you've got some good designing, behind, in the future in you. So why don't you come here and do whatever the heck you want? And we'll just put a secret patent on it, and who cares what the Russians want? And so he started working on the CZ-75. And if you look at the lines of a CZ-75, you can tell that he kind of looked at a FN high power and said, hey, I kind of want my gun to look like that. But some of the things that he didn't like was it was a single action trigger, so he made his a double action trigger, and he wanted his guns to be a little bit more accurate, a little bit lower bore axis, so you can see that he was one of those guys that took the idea from SIG's P210 and put the slide inside the frame. And that helps with accuracy, it's precision, it's precise, and that's what he went ahead and went with. And it was an amazing firearm. The problem was, because NATO countries didn't honor Warsaw Pact patents, and even if they did, it was a secret patent, some people got a hold of CZ-75s like Tanfolio and started making direct clones. So unfortunately, CZ didn't take any of the profit from this wonderful firearm that they were making. And Kautsky didn't get, Frank didn't get a lot of credit for what he had produced. And in the 80s, after the Velvet Revolution, CZ started exporting these firearms, and they're just high quality. And if you look, the finish is this deep, deep black finish, real shiny, real nice. When you see a CZ75B, that's when they put a drop safety in. So that you'll see that difference. You'll see the CZ75BDs that has a decocker. Before, it just had a half cock, so you kind of had to put your finger in there, pull the trigger, and it would come down to a half cock. Later on, they introduced the BDs. As the idea of Tacticool kind of came in, they came out with these, the P01s. Now, they had the full size and the compact. The CZ75 P01, like I have here, is a compact 15-round magazine with a shorter barrel. The CZ75 P01 has the full size and the half size. Now, there's also something called a PCR, which does not have the Picatinny rail down here. The frame doesn't go out as far. It's pretty much identical to this. It does have the decocker. The P01s all have decockers. And later on, they would come out with the Omega series, where the Omega series, you could choose whether or not to have a safety or a decocker, because a lot of these were used for shooting competitions, and a lot of people did not want the decocker. They wanted the safety. So these are just really awesome firearms. I love them. The ergonomics are just amazing. It just feels so good in the hand. Now, I've heard some people complain that the trigger's too far, and I think that's a misnomer. So when you're dry firing or you're doing your dry firing drills, you have a tendency to just pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. Well, if you look, the hammer's all the way down, and you're right, it is kind of a stretch to get it out there. But you have to remember, when you're going to actually use this firearm, the hammer may be all the way down. But when you go ahead and you put a fresh magazine in, how it works is you rack the slide. Now, this is not safe, so what you're going to do is you're going to decock the pistol, and it puts it on half cock, and you can see your finger fits much better there. And while, yes, you're right, on the last round, it is going to come all the way down, but at that point, you're going to change out your magazine, and you're going to rack the slide again. So if you are in the gun store and you're like, man, that is quite a reach to get to, remember that when you actually operate the firearm, you're going to have to rack the slide to put a round in the chamber, and then you're going to decock, which is going to put it on the half cock, which I find that most people find that is much better anyway. Now, the P01s now all come with these rubber grips, and you can actually see this used model that I got kind of has a rusty screw. We're going to talk about that in another video. A lot of people don't like the way that rubber feels up against the skin, and I can understand that. So you might have to upgrade your grips if that's something that really that you appreciate. Disassembly on this gun is not ideal. You can see that there's two lines, and what you do is you line up those two lines. It tells you in the manual to use your magazine and pop out the cross pin. I don't like using the magazine, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a tool. My handy dandy wood cleaning tool. Line up those lines again. I really kind of wish that he would have stolen the idea from Saïve or Browning and would have put just something in the slide. And then once you do that, you just go ahead and push this off. And again, it rides inside. The machining is very nice. This is an aluminum frame to keep weight down. The original CZ75s all had all steel frames. This particular one that I have has a plastic guide rod. So we're going to go ahead right now. I went on the eBay and purchased an NDZ guide rod, all steel guide rod. I'm going to go ahead, put that on in there, and that should make that a little bit gooder, fit right in there. You'll see that again, like I said, it's pretty clear that Frank went ahead and really kind of took his cues off of the high power. I mean, just the barrel looks the same, the lugs look the same, but man, just the quality of the machining on this is awesome. I love that long rail, which makes for a lower bore axis, and lower felt recoil. I mean, you could just, it just makes it kind of so smooth to go ahead and shoot. And then when you put it back together, it's just kind of a reverse affair of taking it apart. You just go ahead and put her on in there. It's nice and tactile. Oh yeah. And it's got that steel guide rod in there now. I love this firearm. I've owned one of these before. I'm excited to take it to the range. You know, there is nothing wrong with a polymer firearm, but if you like just the little extras, like the beautiful, gorgeous way that it feels in the hand. Most of these all come with tritium night sights. You can get upgraded sights very, very easily. One of the downsides that a lot of people will talk about with this particular firearm is that if you since it runs in there, there's less to purchase. If you come over the top to release a mag, I find that where this mag release isn't bad. The decockers, the controls are very, very easy to get to. You know, it's just a well thought out firearm, and there's a reason that it's been around for coming on 50 years now. It's because it's a well done firearm. So I'm excited to take this to the range. I've got some other videos planned for this particular firearm, some things to talk about decockers and placement and stuff like that. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me here at The Bucket Shall Not Be Infringed. Go ahead. Likes are always appreciated. Comments are great. I love communicating. I try to communicate with everybody that leaves a comment with me. Shares are appreciated. And once again, you stay classy, YouTube. Little baby Bucket, do you want to live in California?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not a compliment.